So was the paper really tough or was it difficult because it disturbed our expectations of the paper?
Unexpected, yes, because in the last few years the pattern has been somehow been cast.
That yes, definitely the paper was very challenging. The paper was very tough. There is no second doubt about that.
Question is tough, no doubt. Question is lengthy, but it is unexpected, you can say.
That UPSC is punishing those who are following a pattern, or does UPSC wants a different set of aspirants who want to play the long game?
This is a personality examination. The message is loud and clear.
Do you have to do completely different things? No. You have to follow same things, but don't fall in the trap of a given pattern.
But the beauty of this exam and the toughness of this exam comes from the fact that there is no fixed pattern.
What kind of strategies they should follow in this life?
Reach out to the respective guides, reach out to your teachers, your mentors, so on and so forth.
Practice different kinds of tests. Practice and read different good books.
And I think the answer for this is also pretty repetitive. You have to stick to your basics. You have to do it over a long time. You have to do your foundation right.
So was the paper really tough or was it difficult because it disturbed our expectations of the paper?
On this, I would like to look at it from two perspectives. One is a short-term perspective, from which all the hue and cry is happening, which is like 26 was difficult compared to 25, 24, 20, that way. But honestly, if I look from my experience, which I would say, the papers I've been following since almost 1990s, because I started preparing around 2003-4 and I was seeing those 10-year earlier papers. So when I look at that from that perspective, honestly, I do not find things to be extremely absurd. So that word absurd I would remove first. One. Second is, was it unexpected? Yes, because in the last few years the pattern has been somehow been cast, and therefore when it is going beyond it, people are saying it is. The third is, was it too difficult? It was difficult who have only been following a given pattern. But for those who have done the preparation slightly in a wider perspective, they have spent their time, and even during the exam they were slightly calm and composed. I don't think they have not performed. They have performed to the limit that they were expected. So unexpected, slightly yes, not too absurd, not too beyond the limits.
I completely agree with her, sir, on this that yes, definitely the paper was very challenging. The paper was very tough. There is no second doubt about that. But one has to understand that there have never been any promises made by UPSC that they are going to give the paper on expected lines. What they do expect from the students is that they have to perform better each time whenever there are questions given us or given by UPSC.
Yes, completely agree with what Sir and Ma'am have said. That question is tough, no doubt. Question is lengthy, but it is unexpected, you can say. But it is not absurd or out of syllabus or other adjectives that the market is using. Commission never promised. There is no obligation on UPSC to ask questions to the strength of certain set of candidates. Most of the candidates are feeling it the other way because maybe the expectations were quite high. And no, UPSC will not fulfill those expectations. We need to rise up to the occasion. Yes, the question was tough, but as I said, that past 30 years of paper, if you see, and not only prelims, even mains exam. 2013 mains exam, there were 5-6 questions from post-independent consolidation in paper 1. People started reading thick books of Ramchandra Guha and Bipin Chandra. Next 2-3 years, there was not a single question from post-independence consolidation. So where is the pattern? The only pattern is that there is no fixed pattern for this exam. That is what makes this exam what it is. 12.5 marks questions were asked, then suddenly it switched to 10 markers and 15 markers. So the shock came in the examination hall. UPSC has this tendency of going into the uncharted territory. And yes, we should not go there with any prejudice, is how I see it.
Very well explained, sir. My next question is essentially about how should a serious aspirant look at this exam, and especially given the fact that there are so many changes that are happening. So where the line between absurdity and difficulty and predictiveness should be based.
So on this, I would start with the first word that you said, absurd. So let us try to understand what do we mean when we say absurd. Absurd is something which is it too ambiguous where the answers could not be found, or is it too much outside the purview of the exam? I don't think any of the questions were there where the answers could not be found, and that's why we find that there are different places where you find at 99% accuracy in terms of finding the answer. So there is no question which is not objective. One. Second is, has it gone outside the syllabus? That's what I said. That it has not gone outside the syllabus. There were areas where they were not asking. So it's like more of a cricket field in which over the last few years, most of the shots were on the offside. So you have forgotten how to play on the onside. But that doesn't mean that you would never have the bowler giving you balls on your onside where you are not prepared. That doesn't make the game completely absurd, right? So I would take it this way in my understanding.
See, I would continue with what sir is saying, that if there was any ambiguity in terms of answering the question, ambiguity is to be defined from the perspective of whether one was not able to solve any question or not, right? So UPSC is not about being unfair. Fairness is decided on the basis of, was everyone given the similar or same situation or questions? So yes, UPSC was fair because everyone faced the same number of questions, similar questions, and similar environment. So, talking about that, it is fair in terms of how one had to be responding to the questions. Instead of this bitterness against the paper, I feel that the students should stand up to be more resilient towards the changing pattern. If there is this change in the pattern which UPSC has showcased in the answer,
Regarding the ambiguous content of the question, I don't completely agree with this. Many questions were factual. So if it is factual, how can it be ambiguous? Facts are objective in nature. More than 20 questions were based on facts. So ambiguity part, I don't see there. And as sir beautifully explained through that cricket analogy, that on one side people were used to playing the shot, they have completely forgotten the other side. UPSC has this tendency to explore the uncharted territory, and that is what they have done this time. Periodically, they keep on doing this so that students cannot prepare and cannot qualify by preparing certain selected portions. The devil lies in the details. You have to prepare holistically. Selective studies will not work. Rather than blaming the commission, I think a more vigorous preparation is required. Again, using the cricket analogy that sir said, that let students not be, let players not decide it, let umpires and referee decide it, coaches also should not decide it.
Sir, on that theme, I would also like to ask this follow-up question, that mostly students rely on certain set of patterns in terms of the mock questions, the certain set of guide books that we have, standard booklets, right? And then we have condensed test series or the current affairs magazines. Now, do you think that UPSC is punishing those who are following a pattern, or does UPSC wants a different set of aspirants who want to play the long game?
So on this, I would probably look into the characteristics which a future bureaucrat should have, because that's the purpose of UPSC. And I think a future bureaucrat, or for that matter, even in the past, a bureaucrat requires to have a general interest in things. It should not only be driven by a certain set of fixed material. The general interest is required in a wide range of things where you are collecting over a period of time. So it's not even a very short preparation which can be done over a 3-month period or a 5-month period. It requires you to prepare for long. So I would say that it's more of a layered kind of a preparation where you are doing the preparation for a while in terms of covering the content informally. Then comes the stage where you start your formal preparation, and that's where we say foundation comes in. So that's where the foundation courses come in, which ensure that at least you're not missing the necessary parts. Everything is taken care of. Then comes the next layer where you are getting into the content and all. So I won't say anything UPSC is penalizing, and this is too early to say it is penalizing because this is just the prelim stage. Mains is still to happen, interview is still to happen. So you can't say they have penalized. They have changed the pattern, beautifully put by all my colleagues. They have changed the pattern. You have to be ready for this new thing. Do you have to do completely different things? No. You have to follow same things, but don't fall in the trap of a given pattern. Right? Don't try to look for too much of a pattern. I would say the pattern is interest and your ability to comprehend things over a period of time. time, understand them, analyze them, and see. And this paper also requires you to analyze rather than looking for somebody else to give you the answer whether it was difficult or tough. When you look back, when you sit down, when you find with a calm mind, you will find there are answers for all the questions that are being put in, by different people.
I completely agree with sir here over, the beautiful analogy which he has summed it up by giving how layered the preparation should be, how much strong foundation should be. So this is what UPSC is testing, that they want a candidate who is having this wholesome personality. He should not charter out his preparation that this is what he's going to do in prelims, this is what he's going to do in mains, and this is where, when interview stage will come, I will change my personality. This is a personality examination. The message is loud and clear. And every time UPSC has asked questions, they have been testing the resilience, the grit, the character, which any aspirant who's aspiring to become a future administrator should have.
Yes, students are getting heavily dependent on the familiar themes and the predictable patterns. But the beauty of this exam and the toughness of this exam comes from the fact that there is no fixed pattern. Familiar चीज़ तुरंत unfamiliar हो जाती है, वो पता चल चुका है लोगों को. तो शॉर्टकट्स नहीं हैं कि कुछ शॉर्ट टर्म कोर्स हो जाएगा, डिटेल में जाना पड़ेगा. यू हैव टू प्रिपेयर हॉलिस्टिकली, और इधर उधर से बिट्स एंड पीसेस में प्रिपरेशन नहीं हो सकती है, क्योंकि 3 स्टेज का एग्जाम है ये. समवेयर यू विल फॉल. अगर आपने बिट्स एंड पीसेस में प्रिपरेशन किए तो समवेयर दिस एग्जाम विल डिच यू. So the solution is to prepare holistically in details and the old format. The old format, because it's an old school exam, so it requires conventional preparation. Holistically, you have to go and you need to have interest even before you start, or you don't start a classroom. You need to have interest in current affairs. Start reading the newspaper. Start following the recommended websites from the government. So that is how the preparation has to be.
So in a way, sir, what you have all identified is that we need to go for the cake, not the icing on the cake, right? On that note, I would also like to ask a follow-up question, that the way students are preparing right now is very much dependent on technology. Students are using artificial intelligence. They are also using a lot of other technologies, social media, etc. But the other flip side of this is that they're getting too much demotivated by some of the negative posts from social media. So in that context, what advice do you have for the students?
So this is a very beautiful question, honestly, because this is where a major change in terms of how the pattern is or has been made, the cast, and how you have to learn how to go beyond. So I would say that the ability to ask, when you say AI starts with the ability to ask the right questions. That ability is something that you nurture. No one can give you a question which you should always be asking and finding the answers. So don't look for ready-made answers from short-term or shortcuts. Look to ask right questions. That's where your foundation lies. And then widen your perspective in terms of collecting the information. And that is something that is going to help you in the long run. So it has to be step by step. You have to ask the right questions, find the answers, ask the next questions, and so on. That's how the whole preparation will develop. So I think, and social media, what it is doing is it is giving you prepared answers. So don't go too much into prepared answers. Prepared answers won't work. The ability to ask questions, and that's where AI really can help. So the ones who learn to use it, but for that you have to have a foundation. Without that, how do you even ask right questions? So I think that's where the whole thing starts. The ability to ask right questions and then finding the answers, and not depending on already too much prepared answers.
So social media has actually democratized the opinion, but the plethora of opinion and the impression that it creates on the vulnerable mind, थोड़ा उस पे भी हमें देखना पड़ेगा. So use social media to stay informed, but don't take every information at the face value of it. Go with what is authentic. Now how do you figure it out? That requires some time. इसमें थोड़ा समय लग सकता है. देखो सब कुछ, कंक्लूजन बनाने के पहले यू नीड टू यूज योर ओन नेशनैलिटी. स्टिक विद दोज हु हैव डिलीवर्ड रिजल्ट्स ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम. इट्स नॉट T20 मैच, इट्स एक्चुअली अ टेस्ट मैच. सो रियल मेट वहीं पर टेस्ट होता है. तो येस, कीप सोशल मीडिया हैंडी, यूज आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, बट अगेन डोंट हेविली रिलाई ऑन इट. You need to have your own opinion, some basic stuff you need to have, then some extra vitamins and minerals will be provided. But to survive, you need carbs and proteins. You cannot survive on vitamins and minerals.
Beautifully said, sir. Students who are preparing for 2027 and 2028 exam, what are the major mistakes that they should be avoiding?
Very fundamental. When you say the basic content, I would say the first mistake is you're not reading before you come to the class. Second, you're not making right synopsis in the class. You're not even taking notes properly. You're not in the habit of writing answers. And finally, analyzing and relating them to the syllabus as well as to the PYQs. So I would say these are some of the most basic fundamental mistakes which students are doing right now. And the answer is just, do these things and your answer is there.
To ask me what are the common mistakes which students usually make is in the test taking strategy. So they don't know how many tests they have to apply. They don't know what kind of questions they should test upon. They don't understand what is the use of post test analysis, and they simply rely on a set number of question bank. तो अगर इन चीज़ों पे students will work, so definitely they will improve their chances in 2027 and 2028.
I think the mistake students make is completely relying on the secondary sources and not going for syllabus mapping. While reading the newspaper, you should not go too much into the political articles and then discuss those articles and views endlessly. That is of no use for this exam. Focus on your syllabus. While reading the sports news, don't solely read the cricket related news. Questions have been asked on F1 race, questions have been asked on tennis and Grand Slam. So other sports are also important. And then don't completely go for the secondary analysis. Those year-end compilation and daily current affair videos and monthly compilations are okay only when you read the newspaper every day. You might add some points to those compilations if you are in a habit of reading those newspapers. Plus, the type of question that we had, they were lengthy. So if you are reading newspaper every day, you will be able to arrive at the correct conclusion because your reading speed would also be positively impacted.
My last question to all of you is, those students who have just seen the UPSC 2026 prelims paper and are preparing for 2027, what kind of strategies they should follow in this light?
See, just like UPSC preparation, there are a lot of repetition which has to be done. And I think the answer for this is also pretty repetitive. You have to stick to your basics. You have to do it over a long time. You have to do your foundation right. So the ones who are preparing for 2027, for you 2026 was nothing more than probably a sample, and maybe the sample was not a perfect sample set, right? So maybe next year's paper is not going to be exactly like this. You have to prepare wide for something like this or for something which we earlier used to call conventional. So again, start from your basics, do your basic right, do your asking question ability right. Be slightly open. Don't stick only to one or two sources, right? In terms of, or one or two people blindly. Don't follow anything blindly, right? But yes, you can follow your foundation thing blindly, because as sir rightly put, without carb and other things, just vitamins cannot keep you alive. So just work on the basic and continue to move.
I agree. I will add to this that, for every student who is aspiring to become a civil servant, he has to also develop an exam temperament. And that is not going to happen specifically when it comes to prelims by not allowing himself into that space which makes him uncomfortable. So practice different kinds of tests. Practice and read different good books, which is making your knowledge more wholesome rather than very superficial. There is no shortcut. There is no tip or trick. You have to rely on your basic foundation. It is a long journey where you will face challenges. There will not be a very comfortable road to you.
See, it requires detailed preparation. Those appearing for the 2027 attempt, please get rid of those illusions that there is some shortcut, there are some tricks, or some कोई संजीवनी बूटी दे देगा और उससे आपको सब कुछ सही हो जाएगा. No, that's not how it will work. कोई भी, none of us are going to vouch for it that the final word on this exam comes from us. We know our subjects, we know something about our subject, and we teach it. But पूरे चारों पेपर और सारे ऑप्शनल पर I, sir and ma'am cannot be the final word. So reach out to the respective guides, reach out to your teachers, your mentors, so on and so forth, and avoid the noise. I'm not asking you to completely ignore social media, but don't take it very seriously. I'm active on social media, I use it for entertainment. I don't take it at the face value. मेरे लिए वो information का source नहीं है. My information comes from the authentic government sites. So yes, develop this habit of visiting these sites. Chairperson of UPSC himself is saying this कि government sources, PIB, standard newspapers. So few hours in a week can be devoted to these activities. Yes, I understand there is a lot of traffic, there are a lot of notifications coming on these sites, but not every notification is for you. A serious aspirant in a course of time, gradually slow simmering process है ये, but पता चल जाएगा कि कौन सी notification मेरे काम की है, जो आपके syllabus से match कर रही है. So start doing these things and you will do very well.
One more thing I would like to add in the end, which I think we did miss at some point, is I would say that students should even come out of a silo, right, where they are just into social media or sitting alone in the room. You have to come out, you have to interact. I would say if you have taken any course, rather than just sitting at home and watching the video, go to the class, interact with the faculty, interact with your peers. That will also give you that sense of the level of competition which is around. It will also expose you to diverse kind of interests, and you might come across some information which you might not have picked yourself, but it came through a friend because he had that interest. So this kind of interaction is also pretty much required. This exam requires you to interact. It's not something where you are just solving 5 physics questions or chemistry questions sitting alone in the room. You have to go out, you have to interact, you have to read. Wider your interactions, better you will be prepared. But that wider doesn't mean only social media. It requires a selective set of people. Which by saying that, I mean because I do see people are avoiding, going to classes. There's nothing wrong in that model. That's a perfect model because that's where you interact with your teachers, right? A teacher online cannot interact with you too much on the camera. Even you might not ask the question, but when you are there, maybe at the end of the class, you go and ask those questions. You ask your peers what they are doing. So I would say come out of your, that comfort zone. Go out, watch, interact, and do things.
I also would like to add on this. I may sound like an old school thought because I have been studied from an old school perception where classroom and the teacher format was very, very important for learning anything. Because at the end of the day, this is a relative competition, and relativeness cannot be measured in, as sir put it, in isolation. If someone has to face the competition, one has to come in the classroom, one has to see his peer group. What is the situation? What is the environment? What are those uncomfortable areas which everyone faces? Until the time they are not understanding that or becoming resilient towards that, they will never be able to achieve or realize their dream of becoming an IAS. So that is what I would like to, touch upon, that this is a relative competition. And because this is relative, you all have to come on board. You have to all see your performance through exams, through tests, through classroom, because that is how you are going to understand yourself. Your strengths and weaknesses, you will be able to measure only when you are put in a difficult situation.
Adding on to this, that yes, competition is relative. So when competition is relative, the cutoff will be adjusted accordingly. It's not an absolute competition where you are only competing with yourself. There are lakhs of other students. So अगर question tough आया है तो cutoff नीचे चला जाएगा. ये conviction कहाँ से आती है? When you have prepared the way you are supposed to prepare for at least a year and a half or two, तब ये conviction आएगी examination hall में कि अगर मेरे से नहीं solve हो रहा है तो किसी से नहीं solve हो रहा है. मुझे 80-90 क्वेश्चन अटेम्प्ट नहीं करने हैं, 60-70 क्वेश्चन अटेम्प्ट करके 40 सही कर सकते हैं. ये कन्विक्शन ज़रूरी है, तभी एग्ज़ाम क्लियर होता है. तो कंपटीशन रिलेटिव है, इस पर ध्यान रखिए, और ओल्ड स्कूल ही तैयारी होती है. इसका कोई शॉर्टकट नहीं है, कोई ट्रिक्स नहीं है.
Thank you everyone for providing your insightful comments on this examination process and about the UPSC Prelims 2026 paper. I hope all the students who are watching this video find this video interesting and useful. Till then, all the best. Thank you.